Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi is Kesubos Kuf Aleph. We are holding 7 lines from the top of the Amud, Leimo Ketanoi. We're going to reference back to the Mishnah that we learned on Kuf Amud Beis. So, unlike your typical marriage, which has a Ksuba, Peiros, Nichse, Melug, goes to the husband is obligated to support his wife, Mezoinos, etc. However, when we have these non-typical marriages, all these halachas, all these arrangements don't apply. We have Mima'enes, Iktana, who was married off to this man by her mother, her brother. It's not considered Minat Torah to be a marriage. And she just rejects him. She walks away from him. Or a Shaniya. That's an Isha who is Asa Midrabanan to this man. Ha'ailanis, turns out that she's physically unable to bear children. In all these cases, the Mishnah tells us on Kuf Amud Beis towards the bottom, in all these situations, there is no ksuba. He doesn't get peiros. She's not entitled to mezainos, bila'os, the worn out, belongings, which the Gemara later will elaborate on. So in all these situations, we don't apply, these standard ksuba marriage commitments. Now in the Gemara we learned a machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. You have a ketana who married. So the Mishnah tells us, if she leaves him by way of miyun, she rejects the marriage, okay, he's not obligated to pay her the ksuba. What if she divorces her? She leaves by way of a get. According to Rav, no difference. The fact is, she was only iktana. Iktana is not really married, Minat Torah. He doesn't have to pay any ksuba, even if he divorced her by way of a get. Shmuel disagrees. He says, sure, if she just walks away, he's pater, but if he chooses to divorce her, to send her away, he must pay a ksuba just like any other isha. Says the Gemara, 7 lines from the top of the Amud. Leimo ketanoi. Perhaps this very discussion is consistent with another machlokes tanoim, whether or not we treat the marriage with a ketana similar to a regular marriage, whether all the arrangements apply to the ketana as well. Rabbi Lezer, no, ein masa ketana klum. You marry a ketana, you haven't done anything. There is no real, legal ramification here. Ve'ein ba'ala zakai b'mitzvi asa. Husband doesn't take her findings, something that she finds in the street, which typically goes to a husband. Well, not in this case. They're not legally married. The Rabbanan wanted us to look after the ketana. Somebody should take care of her, so she doesn't become hefker to all. So we have this marriage arrangement, but it doesn't really follow your typical marriage guidelines. There is no zechus for her mitzia, v'lei b'masiyah dea. Husband doesn't get her income. V'lei b'afaras nidorea. He can't interfere with her vows. Ve'eno yersha. If she passes away, he doesn't get her assets. Ve'eno mitamelo. If he's a kohen, he cannot tend to her burial. Klagah shel davar. This is the rule. Eina ke'ishtei l'chol davar. She is treated as a non-wife to him. Ela shetzricha miyun, with one exception. She must formally reject him if she chooses to leave. So that's a din d'Rabbanan. You can't just walk away. You have to do a formal, miyun declaration. But otherwise, it's as though she's not married to him. That's Rabbi Lezer's shita. Ketana, non-marriage. Rabbi Yeshua Eimer, no. Mid-Rabbanan, we treat a marriage with a ketana as per an ordinary marriage. We give her all the privileges. Ma'aseh ketana klum, we treat it like a regular marriage. Ubalo zaka b'mitzi also, he gets the mitzio b'masiyah dea, her earnings b'faras nidorea. He has the ability to undo her neder. Taisus explains, even though the whole marriage is only midrabanan and afaras nidorim is minat Torah, he says, look, the presumed assumption is that her mindset, the ketana's mindset is, I'm only doing something if he approves. So it's like a neder on condition that allows him to block it. Furthermore, says Rabbi Yeshua, what else does he have? V'yarusha. He inherits her assets. Umi tamela. If he should be a kohen and she passes away on him, he can tend to her kivura. And once again, we have a problem because this is asur min Torah, and here the whole marriage is only midrabanan. Tosfos addresses this as well. He says we treat her like a mace mitzvah, as though she's an unattended mace, because her family won't want to take care of her. They'll say, well, he's getting all her belongings, let him take care of her. We treat her like a neglected mace, and therefore even a kohen, as we know, can involve himself in a mace mitzvah. So this is Rabbi Yehuda speaking. Klal shel davar, as a rule of thumb, harayi kishtichol davar, we treat her like a regular wife, ela sheyotze b'miyan, with one exception. Unlike your typical wife, who needs a get to leave her husband, a ketana could just walk away through miyun by rejecting him formally. So according to Rabbi Lezer, marriage with a ketana is treated like a non-marriage. Rabbi Yehuda treats it like a regular marriage. Perhaps this machlekes will match our machlekes between Rav and Shmuel. Rav, who says that a ketana who leaves her husband, even by way of a get, does not trigger a chi of ksuba because it's a non-marriage to begin with. Whereas Shmuel follows Rabbi Yehuda. Perhaps it's a proper marriage. We package it like a regular marriage. And as well, when he's megarisher, he has to pay the ksuba. Is that so? Leima Rav Damak Rabbi Lezer. Shall we say to Rav, no marriage? That's Rabbi Lezer's shita, no marriage. Shmuel, who says, well, when you divorce, you have to pay ksuba. The Amak Rabbi Yehuda, that's Rabbi Yehuda's shita, yes, marriage. Response: Aliba de Rabbi Lezer. Regarding Rabbi Lezer's opinion, Rabbi Lezer is the one who says husband doesn't get any privileges as per a regular marriage. Kuli amalei pligi. Both Rav and Shmuel will have no dispute, meaning Shmuel cannot conceivably follow Rabbi Lezer's shita. Look, Rabbi Lezer doesn't even give the husband any privilege, any rights. Even though the whole idea of marrying off the ketana is for her sake, for her benefit, still we don't give him any rights during that marriage. Certainly, of course, upon divorce, she can't get the ksuba. So Shmuel inevitably won't be consistent with Rabbi Lezer. Only Rav can go with Rabbi Lezer. The question is, how do we interpret Rabbi Yehuda's opinion? He's the one who says that a husband gets all these rights and privileges. So Shmuel, Rabbi Yehuda. Shmuel, who seems to treat this as a proper marriage, that's Rabbi Yehuda's shit. Okay. But Rav will say, look, me too, I can also follow Rabbi Yehuda's shit. Why? How does it work? Ad kan like on Rabbi Yehuda Hasan. Perhaps it's only over there. When we speak about husband's rights and privileges, does Rabbi Yehuda tell us that a husband is entitled? Ela medida, because these are things that are coming from her, lididei to him. So we give him those extra rights. We want to encourage a man to marry the ketana, to look after her. Avo mididei, but when it comes to ksuba, which is something coming from him, lidida to her, well, it's an expense. Loy, perhaps in this case, we would not activate this obligation. So Rav can go with Rabbi Yehuda as well. But ksuba would not be triggered, would not be activated by a ketana regardless. And the Mishnah mentioned veloy blois. So we have the mema'enes, who rejects her husband. We have the shnia, who is usher to him. We have the ailenis, a non-childbearing woman. They're not entitled to bilois. Bilois means items that have been worn out, worn through. Now, we have a choice. It can be either referring to nichsei malug, those are these assets that belong to her, but he has, husband gets the produce, the payros, but the actual principle is still hers. So it's totally hers. He has no responsibility in terms of, any gains or losses in the actual property. We have nichsei tzoin barzel. Rashi says tzoin barzel means tzoin, livestock. Barzel, that's strong like barzel, like iron, meaning it's a guaranteed, secured deal. She writes it into the ksuba, it's part of the dowry. Husband accepts upon himself any responsibility in terms of losses or gains as well. That's his gain. So she's totally guaranteed. It's a guaranteed investment, a secure deal. So when we speak about belois, worn out items, What class, what category are we speaking about? Nichse Milug or Tzayin Barzel? Here comes the Gemara. Amar le Rav Huna bar Chila Rav Kahana. Amar Islam Nishmedi Shmuel. You have told us in the name of Shmuel we have a distinction. Lo Yishanu. When the Mishnah says the Noshim will not get their belois on their way out of the marriage, that's only pertaining to Ela Nichse Milug. Aval Nichse Tzayin Barzel Isla. But the belois that belong to the Tzayin Barzel category of things, that she will retrieve on her way out. End of statement. Havi Barav Papa. Rav Papa had some difficulty here. What's going on? When does this chiluk, this distinction apply? Ahai. On which one of the three cases, three women in the Mishnah, are we referring to? Ilema Amema Enes, the Ktan who just rejected her husband. Well, there's no difference between Nichse Milug or Tzayin Barzel in that case, because Ide Isnahu, we're speaking that the items are still here. There are still, remnants of her items. Well, it belongs to her. What right do you have to withhold it from her? She did nothing wrong. She's just a Ketana who decided to move on in life. Idi Shakla, whether it's Tzayin Barzel or Milug, she takes it out. She takes it with her. Vidi Lesnu, if we are speaking the items are no longer here. He wore them out. So perhaps he would have to pay for them. Well, Idi Loy Shakla. Whether it's Tzayin Barzel or Milug, she has no right to retrieve it, to make him pay for it. Why? Let's go over to Rashi. Rashi here is exactly to the right of our place in the Gemara. Idi Isnahu. If they're still intact, Kayamin, Idi Isla. She certainly has the right to take them with her. There's no reason to penalize her. What she do wrong? Idi Lesnu Kayam, if they're not around, Idi. Bei Nichse Milug. Bei Nichse Tzayin Barzel. Lesla. She has no right to claim these things back. Because he can say like this. Look, I wasn't expecting you to just walk out on me. When I used these items, it was with full permission. I did nothing wrong. If one day I decide to divorce her, then we'll work it out. I'll look at the Kesuba, I'll see what it was, and I'll pay you back. Until then, leave me alone. Nobody asked you to walk away. That's regarding the Nichse Tzayin Barzel, which she has a right to use and to wear them out. Likewise, says Rashi, Ubenichse Milug Nami. Even when it comes to Nichse Milug, which technically belong to her, and he has no right to really, wear them out. Even though he spent them, in an unauthorized manner, but still, he's not obligated to repay right now. He can just say, look, we have time. I'll wait until I divorce her. There's always a chance I might not have to pay it out. Maybe she'll die during my lifetime. I'll take it from her as a Yerush. Bottom line is, you decided to reject me to do miyun. You have no right to put a claim on me. Okay, so my enes doesn't work. Continues the Gemara. Ella islandess. Oh, so we're speaking about the islandess. So it's been discovered that she has this severe hormonal deficiency, no children. So she's going to leave the marriage. It's a mekachtos, mistaken, transaction. What does the Mishnah say? Loy belois. No belois for you. What are we speaking about? Again, let's go through the options. Either isnu, we're speaking that the belois are still intact, they're here. Either vidi shakal, good, they're here to take whatever it is, whether it's malug, tzayin barzel, that's yours. Why would she lose it? Right? And this time, he's certainly he's a culprit as well. He's sending her away from the marriage. Vidi lesnu. Oh, so we're speaking that the items are no longer here. It's a question of, repayment. Well then, if the distinction that Rav Kahana made actually should have been reversed. Why? Nichse melug kaimi islam. In terms of nichse melug, which are really hers, he had no right to just spend them and use them up. Even a beged, we're going to see in a minute, even though he has use, he has peiros, but something which is just going to get worn out, that's like disrupting the principle. You're damaging the actual item. So nichse milug are really hers. You have no right to abuse them, to use them up. So Bereshos Sokaim, it's in her possession, Isla. So if he used it up and he spent it, or he ruined it, or he wore it out, he should be paying her for it. Nichse Tzoyin Barzel, the La Bereshos Sokaim, as opposed to the Tzoyin Barzel, which isn't really in her possession, meaning it's sort of in his domain. He has a full right to use them, etc. So, in this case, he had Rishus to use it. Lesla, perhaps she wouldn't be entitled to reclaim these items. If anything, we're not exactly sure why, but if anything, you're going to make a distinction, make it in this direction rather than the other way. So this option doesn't work. Ella Ashniya. Let's go to the third option. Shniya. She's sort of a secondary, relative Arayis Midrabanan. She shouldn't be marrying him, and the Rabbanan applied a knas, a penalty, to this marriage. They applied a penalty both ways, to him and to her. V'konsu Rabbanan lidida. So we're going to explain Rav Kahana's distinction. He said by Shniya, when she walks away from the marriage, in terms of balois, worn out material, worn out items, we're speaking, of course, that nothing's left, right? Because if it's here, she takes it with her. It's pashut, as Rashi says. We're speaking about repaying for damages. What does Rav Kahana tell us? That she loses and he loses. V'konsu Rabbanan lidida, she must forego a claim bidideh that she has against him, right? And what's that referring to? The nichse milug. Husband had no right to go, destroy them and ruin them. So really, she has a rightful claim on him. Payback for the nichse milug? No, we cancel that. A knas. And likewise, v'lidideh, we cancel his claim against her. V'lidideh b'didah, something which he could have claimed against her. That's referring to the nichse tzoyin barzel. Look, I took responsibility. I was fully authorized to use these things. I'm not ready to pay back. I want to still, keep my investment wherever it is. No, you must pay it back. That's a knas against him for marrying the shniya, which is asur. And now we have a full understanding in Rav Kahana's statement. Which belois does she not get? Rav Kahana tells us the nichse belug, which typically belong to her. She has a right to reclaim those lost items. No, but nichse tzoyin barzel is the opposite. If anything, he's in the right. No, he must pay that back. Omar of Simi bar Ashi Shma Mino mid Rav Kahana. The fact that Rav Kahana tells us that the only reason why the wife cannot reclaim, the garment which was a nichse milug, is because we penalize her. Mashma, apparently, she would have a right to reclaim that. She brought in a beged and he wore it out. It's gone. Technically speaking, typically she would reclaim that. He must compensate her for that loss. What do we see from here? Ailele glima, when an isha brings in a garment, karna havi, the garment is considered actual principle. Husband can't just use it and cover himself and wear it ad the until it wears out. You're taking away the actual principle. You have no right to do that. So although a husband can access peiros, but not if it's going to destroy the actual item. Did Rav Nachman tell us a couple of weeks ago? A husband making use of a garment is called peiros. It's use. It's shimush. It's not actually taking the item away from you. You can just wear it and wear it until it wears out. The Rav Nachman Peliga. True, Rav Nachman is in disagreement with Rav Kahana, who considers it interference with the actual item itself. You're damaging the principle, you have no right to do that. Okay, the Mishnah continues and says, well, all these nashim are not entitled to ksuba. He doesn't have to pay out, the ksuba payout upon dissolving of this marriage. Amar Shmuel lo yishonu alamana masayim. We're speaking about the actual base amount. Avatu sefes. Suppose a husband added some supplemental amount. Rashi says that comes on account of their closeness. Yesh lahen, even in these cases, he's still obligated in that tosefes ksuba. Tanina mihachu, we have the same in a brayso. Nashim she'amru chachamim ein lahem ksuba. In all cases where the chachamim tell us an isha is not entitled to collect her ksuba, kigoin hamema'enes, v'chaber yisrael, the me'enes, and all the similar cases, ein lahen mana u'masayim, they're not entitled to the base amount, avot tosefes ish lahen, but the extra amount they get. However, noshim she'amru chachamim yoytze shalei b'ksuba, we have another category of women. They must leave without a ksuba. That's the lashon of the halacha. Kigoin, for instance, averis al das, if she transgresses basic halachas, v'chaver yisrael, and similar cases where the Mishnah would tell us they must leave without a ksuba. In that case, she loses everything. Ein lohen tosefes, they don't get the extra amount. V'kolshken is certainly the base amount. Mana u'masayim. Continues the brayso. Vayoytzis mishum shemra. Suppose Anisha must leave the marriage because she deviated. She was involved with others inappropriately. In this case, she loses everything except for the existing items, which she brought into the marriage. Miss Sayele Rav Huna, to write to Rav Huna, Rav Huna zinsa, even if she committed znus, lo yifsida b'lo eiseh kayam. She still has a right to take, whatever's left behind. She doesn't lose the items, the worn out items. If they're still there, she can take them home with her. So even though she loses all other, marriage rights, but whatever's hers is hers. However, Tana, there was a Chacham who presented a Braisa, Kamed Rav Nachman, which indicated otherwise. Zinsa, this type of Isha, loses anything which is marriage related. And even if we have blois which are still kaim, she loses that because it's also marriage related. It was part of the marriage arrangement. Amalei, so Rav Nachman responds very harshly. Just because she committed znus, kelel mizanoi, her kalim, or items and objects deviated. Why are they guilty? Meaning, they shouldn't be affected by her behavior. Tani, you should revise the brisa as follows: she doesn't lose rights to those items. However, you should know that this brisa that we mentioned before, that she loses it, that's zu divrei Rabbi Menachem. Those are the words of Rabbi Menachem Stimta. As she says, he's called Rabbi Menachem Stimta because many, of his halachas were presented anonymously in the Mishnayos and the Brises. So he takes a more stringent approach that an Isha was Mazana, loses everything, even the existing items. Ava Chachamim, even the Chachamim disagree. They say Zinsa, still lo yifsida b'lo yiseh kayam. Now the Mishnah tells us that by an islandess, if he knew in advance that she was an Isha suffering from that condition, in that case, he's obligated to the Ksuba. Amar Rav Huna, islandess, Isha ve'ena Isha. By an islandess, sometimes we treat her as a married woman, sometimes not, meaning in terms of the marriage commitments. If he knew about her condition, he committed. Otherwise, if he took it took him by surprise, he's not obligated to the Ksuba commitment. However, says Rav Huna, that's by the islandess. But by the almana, let's say Kohen Gadol, who's not meant to marry an almana, happened to end up with an almana. So whether he was aware or unaware, Isha Gemura, we treat her like an ordinary wife, and he has full commitment to her. Explains Rav Huna why. Islandess, Isha ve'ena Isha. By an islandess, well, sometimes yes, sometimes not. Depends if he was aware of her situation, Yesh lo Ksuba, she's entitled to the Ksuba, because he took it upon himself, regardless of her situation. If he was unaware of her situation, Ein lo Ksuba, there is no Ksuba. That's by the islandess. But by the almana, he could have checked into her. He could have verified her status before marriage. Why'd you go without checking? Isha Gemura, we treat her like a regular conventional Isha, bein hikirba, bein lo hikirba, whether or not he knew about her situation. Yesh lo Ksuba, she gets the Ksuba. That's Rav Huna's Chiddush. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, no. There's no difference between almana and islandess. If it took him by surprise, he's pater. Achazu, whether it's an islandess, achazu, or an almana. Isha ve'ena Isha, sometimes she is an Isha, sometimes not, meaning hikirba, he knew about her situation. Yesh lo Ksuba, she gets a Ksuba. Lo hikirba, if he was unaware about her status, Ein lo Ksuba, there is no Ksuba commitment. Meisvei, here comes a kasha from a brisa on Rav Huna. Rav Huna told us that when it comes to an almana, whether or not he was aware of her status, he's chayiv ksuba. The brisa says differently. Konsa b'cheska she'ikain. He marries the isha, knowing, fully aware that she's an almana. V'nim says she'ikain. It turns out that she was actually an almana. So even though the union is forbidden, yesh lo ksuba has no ramification on his chiyav. He is chayiv a regular ksuba. That's the brisa. Let's make a diuk, an inference. Hastama. Apparently, if he was not really aware of her situation, he married her presuming that she's a regular isha. Ein lo kesuba. She's not entitled to the ksuba. Should he find out that she's an almana? That's a kasha on Rav Huna. Answers the Gemara, Loi tema, don't say Hastama ein lo ksuba, that if he was unaware and then he finds out she doesn't get a ksuba. No. Ela ema, rather say like this. Let's say she misled him. He married her with a different picture in mind. She misled him. She says, I'm not an almana. He married her on that assumption. It turns out that she misled him. She's an almana. In that case, ain't no ksuba. She doesn't get a ksuba. Says the Gemara, Avo stomamai. So what do you mean to say? Let's say it was without any, advanced knowledge, one way or the other. Isla, then she's entitled to the ksuba as per Rav Huna's chiddush. Is that so? Well, then I have a kasha. Adatoni becheska sheikain. V'nimtza sheikain. Yesh lo ksuba. Why does the brisa have to begin by saying, well, he was fully aware that she's an almana, and it turns out she was an almana, then she gets her ksuba? Isn't that an obvious case? If Rav Huna's halacha is indeed true and correct, that even by stama he's chayiv ksuba, l'shamin and stama, and the brisa should cite that case, which is a great chiddush. You should know that even if he married an isha unaware of her situation, turns out she didn't almana, he failed to check her out, he failed to verify, he must pay the ksuba. That should be the halacha in the brisa. And certainly we would conclude that if she actually told him in advance, of course he's chayiv in the ksuba. Why would the brisa have to mention that case and not the greater chiddush, if in fact the greater chiddush of stama is true? V'oid, another raya. We have a brisa which says like this: Kansa v'oid tani, kansa biyadua v'nimsas biyadua yesh lo ksuba. If he married her knowing full and well that she's an almana, turns out she is an almana. As per agreement, he must pay the ksuba. Kansa stam, let's say he took her in without knowing that she was an almana, ein lo ksuba. He doesn't have to pay the ksuba. And indeed, this is a kasha to yufta de Rav Huna. It's a refutation of Rav Huna. Now, how did Rav Huna even get to this halacha? Rav Huna masnis at isi. Rav Huna was sort of misled by the lashon in our mission, which tells us that by the islandess, if he married her originally knowing that she's an islandess, then she has ksuba. Why does the Mishnah only offer that, distinction by the islandess? Who suffer? Rav Huna figured me to call maflik by islandess. The fact that the Mishnah makes that distinction by the islandess, that if I knew about her situation, then I have to give her a ksuba. But by the almana, the Mishnah says an almana gets a ksuba, and the Mishnah does not elaborate. It doesn't specify. It's only because he was aware of her status beforehand. There's no distinction by the almana. We don't specify that he had to know about it in order to trigger the ksuba obligation. It would appear from the omission. The fact that the Mishnah does not go into this detail, the almana is different than the islandess. By the almana, if you marry her without checking her out, and it turns out she's an almana, you have to give the ksuba. That's where Rav Huna came from. Velohi, says the Gemara, actually it's incorrect, because kiktana la almana, because when the Mishnah concludes with the almana, it's a continuous phrase, so to speak. Apluk to the islandess koi. It's actually referring back to the distinction we made by the islandess. Just as by the islandess, it all depends on whether he knew or not. Likewise, when the Mishnah concludes with the almana, it's based on the same notion. Sure, the almana can get a ksuba, provided that he knew about it. But if she takes him by surprise, of course, he's pata from ksuba. Hadron aloch almana nizonis. Okay, before we continue with the new parak, perhaps let's just do a brief a summary of the last sugya. Okay, we have several types of situations. He married a mama'enes, ishnia, an islandess. And we have the last part of the Mishnah which discusses various isuri da'iraisa like almana l'kohen gadol. Okay, regarding chiyuv kesuba, and of course we're speaking about the ikar kesuba because of the sefes, he would be chayiv regardless, as we saw in the Gemara. A ketana walks off. I'm a ma'anis. No kesuba there. What if she left him by way of a get? That's a machlekes. Rav says no kesuba there either, because the marriage of a ketana is a non-marriage. Shmuel considers it a proper marriage with respect to chiyuv kesuba upon divorce. A shnia, no ksuba there. An islandess, if he wasn't aware of her status, no ksuba there. Likewise, the almana l'kohen gadol, no ksuba there. As opposed to Rav Huna, who disagreed, he said that by almana there would be a ksuba even by aloy hikirba. Regarding pairs, no pairs all the way down the line, mezainis as well. Regarding belois, it's a bit complicated here. So speaking, of course, the belois are no longer in existence. It's a question of obligating the husband to repay for those lost items. By the memainus, he's pata completely. He says, look, I'm not asking you to leave. You decided to leave. Don't ask me for money. Regarding the shnia, which is, isser, a marriage which has isser, the chachamim applied a knas. What's deserving to the husband, he doesn't get. Likewise, the wife loses her portion, meaning by the nichse maluk, which for which the wife really has a rightful claim. He took away my items, pay it back. Knas, he's pater. Likewise, by the ten barzel, which is something really he can claim as his. I spent it, and I had a right to spend it, and I would like to keep on holding on to that investment. No, he has to pay that back, so it's a knas against him. Regarding the islandess and the almana l'kohen gadol, over there the Gemara tells us it goes the other way around. The nichse milug, which are rightfully hers, go back to her. The nichse ten barzel, which she invested rightfully so. In this case, you can't obligate him to pay it back at this point. Okay, let's continue with a new parak. Says the Mishnah, no, he says the isha. A fellow marries an isha who happens to have her own daughter, which she's bringing into the family. Says fellow's stepdaughter, upaska imay, and the mother arranged with the new husband, kedei sheyazon as bita chamesh shanim. He will provide 5 years of mezainis, he'll feed her for the next 5 years, because really this husband is not obligated to feed this stepdaughter, but they have this personal agreement, 5 years of mezainis, he has to follow through. Chayev lezoina chamesh shanim, must provide for the next 5 years. And the Ritva says, the assumption is, we start immediately. Now, let's say the Isha divorces. Nisis la'achar, she marries another fellow. Upaska imay. She makes the same deal with the second fellow. Double dipping. Paska imay, shekdei sheyizon es bita chamesh shanim, to provide for the daughter, mezanis for 5 years. Chayev lezoina chamesh shanim. Here as well, he must provide for her next 5 years. Now she gets double mezainis. Lo yemer rishon. Now, the first husband can't come back and say, look, this is not what I had in mind. Look, when the wife will be by me, meaning as long as we were married, I fed her, I fed the daughter. Azoina, I'll feed the daughter as well. You can't do that. Unless they stipulate clearly that it's dependent on the marriage, but they didn't do that. He took upon himself to take care of the kid for 5 years. He has to bring the mezainis to where her mother is, meaning we assume the daughter is living with the mother. He has to pay her over there. Likewise, both husbands can't team up and say, well, she's to be fed, we'll take care of it in unison. We'll chip in. I'll give half, you'll give half. No, that's not the agreement. They both have an independent chiyuv. Ella rather, echad zona, one fellow actually feeds her, gives her the food. Vechad nois not dmei mazenis. The other fellow has to provide the dmei mazenis, money instead of food. Furthermore, nisis. let's say the daughter grows up and marries. We know that a husband must provide for his wife's mezainis. So now she has a triple source of mezainis. Does she get all three? Yes. Habal nois no mezainis. The husband pays for them. He gives her the actual mezainis. Vehei nois no dmei mezainis. And the other two, stepfathers, they give her the mezainis expenses. So she actually makes money on the deal. Mesu. Those fellows pass away, the first people, and they still have this obligation towards this daughter, which is like a regular debt. So listen to this. She has an advantage over their own kids. Their own daughters. Although a daughter is typically entitled to mazonis after her father's passing, but we learned this many times that an isha cannot take from mazonis from mishubadim, assets that have been tied up, because it's a never-ending thing. It's not a defined value. It's an undefined an expense. You can't expect buyers to be beware of this type of commitment. So the halacha is they can't extract properties from buyers. So a daughter gets mazonis from bnei chayrin, available properties. But this daughter, who has this absolute claim, this commitment, she's like a balas chayv. It's a 5-year, mazonis commitment. That's an absolute and defined commitment, and therefore she has an advantage over the other kids. Why? Because she's like a regular creditor. Concludes the Mishnah. Is there any way out of this whole, double commitment? Yes. The wise fellows would write like this. Sure, I'm going to provide for your daughter for 5 years on condition. I'll give her for 5 years as long as you're with me. But once you leave me, it's over. Continues the Gemara. Itzmar, we learned. Reuben tells Shimon, Chayav ani locha mana. I owe you $100. I once borrowed money from you. I owe it to you. So he's being mighty. He's admitting that he has a debt. Can the other fellow collect on that debt? Should this person retract his words or whatever? Rabbi Yehuda Amar Chayiv, he must pay up. V'Reish Lakish Amar no, Pater. Hey Chidami, what's the case? Ida Amar Lu Atem Edai. Now obviously we're speaking about a fellow who did this, made this declaration in front of Edom. Otherwise he can just, deny the whole thing. So we're speaking that he turned to the Edom and he said, Atem Edai, I am designating you as witnesses, which makes it a more serious experience, more formal, in which case he can't just turn around and say, well, I was joking, it was just a prank. If so, my time with the Reish Lakish, the Gapata, why would Reish Lakish absolve him? It's a real serious, commitment here. He admitted. If we're speaking that he didn't actually address the Edom and say, you are my Edom, well then it could just be a big joke. My time with Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, why would Rabbi Yehuda hold him responsible for his prank? Certainly he didn't say Atameda. But it wasn't just a verbal admission. My skin was speaking to Amarlei Chayav Anilochmana. He took a piece of paper. Bishtar took a piece of paper. On it he wrote these words. I owe you $100. He didn't even mention his name. It's just, you see, his handwriting. I owe you $100. And of course it was in front of Edom. But he didn't actually designate Edom. He didn't say Atam Edom. The question is, how serious of an admission is this? On the one hand, he didn't say Atam Eda, it's nothing. On the other hand, he put it in writing. When you put something in writing, it makes it more serious. And therefore we have this machlekes. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Chayev, he must pay up. Why? Alim Milsa Deshtar, something which is actually put in writing, has an advantage. It's command Amar Lu Atam Edom. It's as if he had addressed the Edom and said Atam Edom, dummy. It is compared to that. And therefore, it's an absolute admission of guilt. Reish Lakish Amar Pater, he does not consider him chayiv. Why? Lo ya'lima milsa d'shtar, even if it's something with a star. It doesn't have that chashivas, doesn't have that strength. It's not considered any different than a verbal admission. In which case, if he didn't say Atam Eda, he can just turn around and say, well, it was just one big prank. Don't hold me accountable. So we learned about the Mema'enes, the Shnia, the Eilenis, in terms of the Ksuba, Peres, Mazoines. We spoke about Belois, various distinctions. We had a chiddush that even an Isha who is not deserving of the Ksuba, but the Tesefes shall get, except for those Nashim, Beloises, shall be Ksuba, they're not deserving even of the Tesefes. We spoke about a fellow who was obligated to be amazing the Bas for 5 years. You can have one commitment, and then the next husband another commitment. She marries herself, she gets a third commitment, and she has an advantage that she can collect the 5 year worth of Mazonis from Nechasam Mishu Badim. A person turns to his friend, he says, look, I owe you $100. In front of Edim, which were designated by way of Atam Edai, and he's Chayev. If it's just, a handwritten note, and he passed it to him in front of Edim without saying Atam Edai, that's a question. Rabbi Yehuda says, well, handwritten note, that's a real commitment. He's Chayiv. And Rish Lakish says, well, the paper is only as good as the writing on it. And the writing is only as good as the words that it expresses. In this case, perhaps it's just one big prank. You can't hold him by his word. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.